What's up, guys? It's Mickey with Dynasty from the Mountaintops. We have Jimmy and Jeremy came back once again. I think he's going to be a regular now. How are you guys today?
Doing fine. Thank you.
Good. We were supposed to have a snow day and did not get a snow day, so I'm sad and happy.
I see. So today we are going to be going through a bunch of trade deadline tips, basically the whole show here. First segment, we're going to talk about roster construction, as Jimmy suggested here, bench and depth. The second segment, targets for the second half. So what we're looking for there is who do you want to buy for the stretch run for the playoffs, and also who are you selling to get ready for next year. So first off, we'll start off with Jimmy with roster construction, since this was your genius idea.
Thank you.
Yeah. Well, we'll see how genius you are, but right now,
one of many ideas that are
yeah, right.
Genius.
So building your bench, what is your biggest tip, I guess, first off, before we even get into positional stuff?
Well, I've actually kind of changed my thinking more on this recently, where I think in years past I would always be like, I need depth, and now I'm starting to realize that I don't think I need depth. I'd rather have draft capital. Like I made a trade last week where I had Calvin Ridley. After making some big trades, I wasn't starting him anymore. Great depth piece, but I realized that depth can get hurt. They could go through a bad stretch. Their quarterback can get hurt. But once again, I think draft capital is so insulated where I'm like, I'd rather have the draft capital, so I traded him for a second where I can use that second, pair it with something, or buy something later on that might help my team when I needed it. So I kind of started changing my thinking from getting rid of depth and just turning that into draft capital and seeing what I could do with it when I actually need a starter or an injury that goes down later in the season. But I really wanted to bring up roster construction because I think a bench is interesting, because like I know in like the leagues we're at like 30, 35 man rosters, and we start around like 10 to 12 players. So we're sitting with like 20 man benches depending on the league. And for me, when I think of my bench, I'm thinking of, okay, how is it working for me? What can I do with it? Like, do I want 10 tight ends? Of course not. Like right now in all my leagues, I have one tight end that's on my bench, because most of the time a tight end is, I can't flip a tight end for good value. Like you really have to go to the Cade Otton level or the Trey McBrides to really get some good value. Like, I mean, Tucker Kraft has been great, but I think he's cooled a little bit. Like, but really, even Tucker Kraft at his height, what could you buy? What could you spend to go get him? A first, maybe slightly more. Like, there's no true high upside there. I think the ceiling is very low. So I'm looking at what can I do that can gain greater value. So I load myself up with running backs, and any running back on a 52. I load up with any backup quarterback that could become value, because I know that they start, I'm getting a second or third guaranteed for them, versus a wide receiver that might be like, I think, what was his name? Jared Coker from the Panthers. That was the hot name last week. And what did he do? He came out this week and had a dud. So like, they might be hot for like a few days, but like, I can't trade an undrafted wide receiver, but I can trade a running back. I can trade a quarterback. And that's how I build my bench.
Okay, so you said a lot there. Let's go back to the first spot. Mm-hmm. I guess the first part for me to ask you, Jeremy, would be not focusing so much on depth and focusing on draft picks. Now, we know where you kind of stand with draft picks, but I wanted to get your take on kind of how you develop your bench.
I think it really all depends on the situation that I'm in. I'm competitive in 2 leagues, and that one I'm active in regards to trying to have depth for the playoffs. I almost missed the championship game that I won last year just because of Joe Burrow's injury. So I do tend to have a little bit of depth issues. I kind of take the different routes than Jim, as it's been advertised. I do like the depth pieces. Currently, either going for older players that are cheap. But if I'm in a situation where 2 of the leagues I know that I'm going to be looking more into next year, I'm grabbing pieces as I can. If it ends up being somebody I lose, so be it. But I'm very busy on the waiver wire, such like that. So it really all depends on the situation I'm in.
Yeah, no, that makes a lot of sense, and that's what we're going to talk about a little bit later on is targets versus getting ready for next year. But to go back to that original point, Jim, for instance, my team, if I didn't have depth at the beginning of the year, I would not be in the position I was in our DVP league, because there were so many injuries, and people were going to overprice what they had because they knew where I was at if I didn't have it. if that makes sense. Since I loaded myself up with that depth, I was able to use QJ, Rashid Shaheed, originally be able to use those pieces, be able to use Rico Dowdle, be able to use Chase Brown, even when they weren't the main guy. I was still able to get some valuable points because of having that depth. So I'm a proponent for having as much possible depth as I possibly can. I'm okay having, like, I almost made a trade today for Najee, and he was going to be sitting on my bench this week just because I didn't have a spot for him on this roster. But if someone goes down, he easily is able to be filled in and matter on the team, and I don't really lose anything. So when you're going for a championship, at least, that's the key, is to have those pieces where you don't have to think about it. If someone goes down, you just replace them. That's how I feel.
It's a very good point you brought up, Mickey, in regards to moving the players. Because yes, to Jim's point about the picks, but there's going to be more individuals during the year that are going to want players versus picks due to various struggles in lineup or injuries or anything in those points. So that's a very good point in bringing that up in regards to future trade assets as well.
But I think it goes back to like league economy, right? Like how active is your league? Like I have one league where like it's not very active until I made like 3 trades in 24 hours. But
gotta love the trade deadline.
Yeah, but like I think it's like if it's an active league, like I know I can go take that second that's in our league, Mickey, and like I can go buy something if I need it. Like I'm not worried about it, but I think it's insulated, right? Players get hurt all the time; they get benched, things happen. But like I think picks are insulated, and I can go buy things. And in our DVP league, I do think it's a healthy league where it's become a little more top heavy, but we also don't have a lot of teams stuck in the middle. We have bad teams, so we have good teams, and I know. And even the bad teams still have good assets that I can go down and buy more players if I need to. And I feel like I can do that pretty easily.
Yeah, and that's the thing with that particular league that we were talking about. If you have a league that kind of has a top and a bottom, not so much middle, then those bottom players probably are going to be selling off and getting the picks. So it's a very competitive league where you can continually trade. However, what I was saying was, like, if someone goes down and you don't have the depth and people know that second round pick that you wanted to sell for an actual person who's worth a second, you're now going to need a first for that same player because they know how desperate you are.
Or multiples. You're looking at like, instead of the second, you're looking at a second and a third next year or something like that. They're gonna milk you for all the picks you can
in the middle of the year, and you're new to being competitive in our leagues here.
In that league, I've been around guys. Like I've won 2 championships in Dynasty. Like I know what it takes. Like. But I think just being more fluid and but also like those bad teams, what do they want? They want picks. So like they can see a second and realize, oh, okay, I could use a second more than this player. So I don't know. I disagree. I think I can go buy a player this week if I needed to and get a decent starter for that second if I needed to.
It sounds like this always comes back to picks versus players. We want the players. You always like the picks.
Well, no, I mean I am competing. Like I just think I can do more with a pick than I can do with a player. Like Calvin Ridley, for example, like people love him, they hate him. Like, but everyone does love a pick. Like it is safe, it is secure. Like I think that's the thing is like, yeah, you want to make these player takes, but like I know I could always go for a pick to a team that at the bottom because that's what they're trying to acquire. They're trying to acquire more picks. So I think I can be more fluid with a pick than I can with one player.
Why don't we go middle ground here? If you're selling, it's better to be pursuing, or better to sell players. If you're buying, it's better to sell picks. I think that's just the easiest way it goes. If you're selling if you're looking to tank, then you're going to prioritize picks. If you're looking to buy, you're going to prioritize players. I think it's just a matter of the situation you're in.
Well, I think, and it goes back to strategy. Like, that's one thing I love about Dynasty is that you can play this game so many different ways. Right. And like this is a new strategy for me. Like I was always one that's like I need depth. I would feel safe and secure, but I've learned more and more. The more you are safe, the more you feel secure about your team. I think the less likelihood that you have a chance to win, because I think Dynasty, there needs to be some risk to it. Like you need to take a chance. And, yes, having less depth does make me feel a little uncomfortable, but I feel like in the long run I can do more and it gives me more roster flexibility, which is to me more important.
Interesting. So let's kind of move off of that and move into I always like to hear positional tips that you have, because in the one league you have, and I don't think I'm exaggerating, 18 quarterbacks on your bench?
That sounds kind of low, but that could also be accurate.
I mean, I don't know how many bench players we have, but everybody is a quarterback on your bench except for like 2 or 3 in the one league. And can you explain why you like that? I've heard you say this before. I kind of want you to say it on here, though.
Well, it goes back to my roster construction, right? Like, especially when I'm in tanking mode, all I'm looking for is value. I'm just trying to find value in any spot. And if you remember during the startup draft, there was a point where it may have been around, the 14th, 15th round. I'm like, it's trash receivers, it's players that I'm going to drop. But what I started doing is just taking backup quarterbacks. And, I mean, this has not been the year for injured quarterbacks. But, I flipped a third for Dalton. Free value. I have Cooper Rush, and Dak's out for 4 weeks now, so I will be trying to sell him. I have Flacco. He's going to be starting, and especially in a 14-team league where, quarterbacks are a dime a dozen, and, no team was really secure with their quarterback room, and all it takes is one injury, and then you are starting, trash in your, super flex position. But you know what gets you a lot of points? Starting quarterback. So, I think teams will be, especially when you're getting later in the season and you're trying to go for a playoff push, a second or third is, I'll give up that second for a quarterback I know is going to start for 3 or 4 games. Hey, if Cooper Rush is going to start for 4 games, that's easily worth a second when you're trying to go for it. So I think just trying to find value. And like I said, I don't want receivers or tight ends on my bench because what I can trade them for is going to be low because any receiver that's on the market right now is a 4th or 5th on their own team, and they need multiple injuries to find value. Like you look at Tampa Bay with Jalen McMillan, 3rd round pick. They lose Mike Evans, they lose Godwin. He was the highest waiver guy. I could have flipped him for a 3rd. I kind of regret doing it, but I was like, I'll take a chance. But what happened? He's been a bust for 2 weeks with the top 2 guys being out. Yeah,
he got hurt.
So that's what happens, right? Versus a quarterback who, hey, if he starts for a game, give me a 3rd, give me a 4th. If he's going to be out for 4 weeks, that's going to be worth a second. I'm already getting so much value. And then what do those seconds and 3rds turn into? I can tier up now. I can tier down. I can go buy a player when I'm competing. So, I'm trying to get 26, 27 seconds and 3rds because when I am competing, just like I did in DVP, I use all those picks to buy starters. And that's what I'm doing. And that's what allows me to gain quick value on my return.
Absolutely. And at first, when I saw you do this strategy, I didn't really understand it, to be honest with you. I was like, you have nothing. I understand you're tanking, but this is over the top tanking. But once Flacco became a starter, once Malik Willis became a starter, I don't know if you had him or not, but
no, darn it.
But I'm just saying, backups, especially because last year, 67 quarterbacks played last year.
Yeah.
And you had half of them on your roster. Yeah. So... And they're all the backups, but still, you have them.
Yep.
and you can get the picks. It 100% made sense to me.
Yeah.
Now, again, we are going to say this 100% is only if you're tanking.
Well, it will start
tearing no sense if you're going to compete.
Well, next year I have a lot of picks.
People on your roster.
Yeah, so those first round picks I have next year will replace quarterbacks, and that's what will start happening is I'll start tiering off the quarterbacks a little bit. But like I said, I'm just trying to find value. That's all I'm trying to do right now. I'm trying to find a stock that is dipping a little bit and investing my money, my time, my resources.
For Jeremy, I'd love to get your take on your biggest suggestion when it comes to positional.
Well, I think there's a quarterback situation because Jim does bring up fantastic points in regards to the quarterback's value.
Genius. It's actually genius points. That's what we settled on. It's genius points.
Easy. But I mean, in a 2 QB, I kind of like to double my requirements when it comes to quarterbacks and tight ends. So a situation where it's a tight end premium, I might have 3. In a 1 QB league, I'm going to only have 2. In a 2 QB league, I'm probably going to have 4. So just for the sake of the depth aspects there.
What I kind of try to do is I go low on quarterbacks, to be 100% honest. I like to have the backup of my starter. That way, I have that quarterback no matter what.
That way you don't get to pay Jim.
Right. So in the same league that you have 27 quarterbacks, I know I've changed the number 30 times, but it doesn't matter. You have way too many. You have all the backup quarterbacks. I made sure I got mine. And it ended up working out because Jacoby started and Sam Darnold started. And then I try to fill as strong as I can running backs, backup running backs that may start. And then wide receivers sprinkle in a little bit and a bunch of tight ends.
I just wanted to quickly update your number that as you were speaking, I just added 2 more quarterbacks in the golf league to my bench.
Probably just for spite, to be honest with you.
Could be true. But I also had some ways.
So now you're getting third round or QB3s or possibly even emergency quarterbacks. That's interesting.
Backup guys. Got backup guys.
Anyway, moving on to the second part here. Targets for the second half. Now, we don't have to talk about specific players or anything like that, but what are you targeting if you're a contender right now?
I personally, I can speak from experience. The past few weeks, I mentioned how my reigning champ league, I got decimated with injury at the beginning. So to play on the Jim's point, I am doing exactly what he said. I am looking at cheap alternative veteran players that are going to get me simple picks. Prior to the Jets trade, I was able to grab Devontae Adams. I was able to grab Calvin Ridley. And these are all like third, fourth picks that right now I'm not really concerned about because I'm trying to defend my championship. So it's kind of funny that Jim brought that up, but it's exactly the role I'm playing for my championship league, for my contending league.
Okay, so even though you have the injuries, you're still trying to defend your championship since you were the champion last year.
100%.
These older guys.
Correct. 100. Yeah, 100%. That's exactly what I did. I still have my core pieces. But yeah, if it plays into the depth situation that you and we were speaking about earlier, I didn't want to walk into post-trade deadline playoffs and lose my championship because somebody got hurt. I wanted to have enough players on hand, and I was able to acquire them cheap.
Absolutely. And Jim, what about you? What kind of things are you looking for if you're going for a stretch run? Like I know you're going for it in the DVP league. We don't really have a trade deadline in that league, but what are the things that you're looking for in the next coming weeks?
Nothing. And what I mean by
Your
that
team's
is
not perfect, trust me.
No, I'm not saying that. I'm saying I can't predict weeks out. I'm just going to take it week by week, day by day, and kind of seeing what happens, right? Like, I don't have any specific players I'm going to target. I'm not going to, things change. Quarterbacks go down. That changes value of receivers, right? Like, players get hurt. Like, I'm just kind of, I think how I play, I'm looking for value, and that never stops. So, like, I'm not looking for any specific players, but like, where do I think I can find value? Like, yeah, Dak Prescott's out. Like, okay, like maybe you can get CeeDee Lamb maybe you can buy him now. It's just, you're not going to get a discount, but maybe you can buy him. Or like, that's the kind of stuff I'm looking for. Where can I keep extracting value? But that's week to week, day to day, and kind of seeing what happens.
I was surprised by this answer because you always have a plan.
I have a plan. That's my plan.
Hold on. You talk about the 3-year plan, and then I ask you this question. You're like, yeah, I just fly by the seat of my pants,
No, but like,
whatever happens.
But I can't predict what's going to happen with teams, and we know injuries dictate a lot of things, and how players are being used. And like, yeah, I mean, I don't follow 2 or 3 week stretches of players that are doing well. It's just more about, okay, like, hey, if this player's on the trade block, like, okay, like if I like him, like if he's doing well, like, yeah, I might send some feelers out. But like, I think Dynasty is such a fickle beast these days, where it is day to day, it's week to week. There is no more 3-year plans with Dynasty. It's how do I win now, or what is this player doing for me today? And if he's not doing that for me today, then I'm moving on. I'm trading him. Or, what running back can I start this week? Like, that's what I'm trying to do. Like, that's my plan. Okay. I can't think too far. I can't even think 4 weeks from now. I have to think day to day, week to, just this Sunday, and that's what I'm trying to do for just this week.
Interesting way to look at it. Okay. So I guess let me ask the question a different way then, because you might be able to have a different answer for this. The last few years, there's been a rookie that comes out second half of the year and just slaughters, kills it. And it's happened for the last few years from what I can recall. Do you guys see any of the rookies who haven't, not like a BTJ or a Malik Neighbors, like someone else stepping up and becoming that Amon-Ra St. Brown, Jaden Reed, Justin Jefferson type player? Maybe not in that caliber, but that second half spur that might create a championship for you.
I've spoken high praise on him a little bit here, and you and I discussed him actually in a maneuver. But I'm really pushing the Tyrone Tracy wagon. I think the Giants are being overlooked just because of how poorly that they were last season in the offseason and the lack of confidence in Daniel Jones. But we've already seen Tyron Tracy take the backfield a little bit off of Singletary due to his injury. Tracy, with the wide receiver pedigree in college and now the running back abilities, he's already tearing it up and doing well. I think it's kind of going under the radar already because, again, he's on the Giants. And right now the cool thing about the Giants is how bad Daniel Jones sucks and how cool Malik Neighbors is. But I'm truly beating that drum, and I truly think that he's going to be one of the more elite rookie running backs by the end of the year.
Me and you completely agree on Tracy. I think it's really interesting that with the Giants, in my opinion, two of the best performing rookies are on the same team, but unfortunately are so packed by the quarterback and offensive line that it's sickening. Jim, what about you?
I think it's Xavier Worthy. And he's either going to fail spectacularly, but I can guarantee this, you can buy him cheaply, probably, than what you could weeks ago.
Oh, that I agree with. Yep.
I mean, he was going for BTJ in rookie drafts a lot of times.
Yeah, it was.
Yeah.
So,
yes,
it's cheap versus what it was.
I mean, he's not, I don't know, like, I think I saw the stat that Patrick Mahomes is like, his accuracy is like 30% lower than when targeting Worthy than the other receivers. So, I don't know. It's one of those things where, like, usually you have that bye week and then you kind of see them jump up from there. But he's someone that, if you believe, you could probably get him cheaper than you could. And he's got that home run threat. He should be the wide receiver 2 now. So maybe, not being that wide receiver 1 expectation will help him flourish a little bit more. That's someone that I'd be thinking about targeting in leagues. I don't know if he's going to be the league winner, but that's someone I can buy cheaper that has higher upside.
That's a really good name, especially now that they have DeAndre Hopkins, because he's going to drop in value even more because now they have that quote-unquote veteran proven dude in Nuke. He is a dude when he has an actual quarterback thrown to him, and we saw it on Monday night. A couple other names that I just want to make sure people know about, and I'm sure everyone knows about it if you're listening to this here, but with Drake May playing the way he is, I do believe that one of the two receivers, rookie wide receivers for his team, in Jalen Polk or Javon Baker, are going to find it. He's got to find that number one route receiver, and they don't have it on the team right now. So I think it's going to be one of the rookies.
Can I hold up a throwing emoji, like a puking emoji? Because I think they're both, I think they're done. I think I would cut them if they were on the bench.
I'm definitely not giving up on Jalen Polk yet, but because I thought he was going to be a stud with Drake May starting, but hasn't happened yet. I do think it could happen.
But here's the thing. If I could challenge your thinking real quick, here's the alternative. Here's the other way to look at it. They don't have a wide receiver 1, and they still can't get on the field. Like, Neighbors has a terrible quarterback. He's on the field. Like, Butte, the 6th-round pick last year from LSU, is getting more targets and more field time. Like, I think it's more concerning for the fact that they can't get on the field with that wide receiver room, regardless of who the quarterback is. And that, to me, that's the biggest red flag.
And that's definitely true. Like I said, I saw so much in Jalen Polk when he was in Washington.
Yeah.
Like, I can't believe he can't get on the field over Butte. I don't know what's going on there, but I believe he's going to be a name, if not this year, next year. The other one, which I've been banging this drum for since rookie draft, which we weren't even doing a podcast, is Keon Coleman. You see him heating up. He's played well the last couple weeks. He's starting to get rapport with arguably one of the best throwing quarterbacks in the NFL, in Josh Allen. And he has someone to take pressure off of him in Amari Cooper. I think all three of those things put together is huge for him to move forward. So just a couple names that I think rookie-wise we want to watch out for as well.
I like the Coleman call because that kind of plays into previous discussions on this pod about Xavier Worthy. That kind of gives him away from that one. The Bills didn't really have a one going in there. Shakir's been great and doing well, but I mean, I know Curtis Samuel experiment has been a complete failure. But yeah, you bring up a good point there because I mean, that's where Coleman's starting to strive is where once a Cooper came in and everything, that's a really good name to drop.
So we'll see what happens. Hopefully I'm right. We'll see. Nostradamus or not. And then the other side of this coin, of course, instead of buying, who are you selling?
Jalen Polk.
Yeah, right. That's funny, Jim. Anyway, who are you selling if you're not going for it this year? And you kind of are either in the middle or a little bit lower than the middle and weren't expecting it. What type of players are you selling, and what are you looking to get for it?
I'm taking Jim's route here, actually. I'm selling anything that's going to get me value. With the exception of like some core players like BTJ, I'm not moving or anything like that. But like basically anything that's not a defined quick league winner, I'm moving. The league is too unpredictable. Positions are too unpredictable. Injuries are too unpredictable. The draft could wreak havoc on any position. So I'm pretty much moving anything that has anybody that's gained interest.
Okay. And I'll even add on to that. I would move older big name receivers or running backs as well. Those quote unquote league winners who are just about to hit that quote unquote age cliff. Those are the ones that I actually try to sell whenever I'm not in it. Like last year, like I said, I sold Eddie and ended up being a genius move, but sold Eddie and I think when I was 3-6 or something like that, like out of it, completely out of it. And the other guy was trying to defend his championship and ended up giving me a first plus, and now Eddie might not even be the starter on his own team somehow. So those are the kind of plays that you want to do, that you want to make, in my opinion, is focus on the veterans and then get potential picks or get the picks for next year.
And to piggyback off of Jeremy stealing my thought there,
I was agreeing with you. I wasn't stealing it.
We can share it together.
Get
out of the middle. Sell points. Get points off your bench. You're right now outside of looking in, or if you are maybe the 6th seed, but your max points are bottom 2, 3, 4. Like sell. Get your especially if you own your draft pick, get to the bottom as fast as you can or as far as you can to help yourself, because you'll know your roster. And so I'd be selling anything I could that of interest. I agree. To piggyback also off what Jeremy said, that it also sell what people want. Like it's nice to say, oh, you can sell this, but like someone else is also going to want that piece. So make sure you're selling what people want. And sometimes it's just better to drop a player too. Like if someone's getting you some points and no one wants them, like no one will take a 4th or a 5th, drop them. Sometimes having that bench spot is more valuable than getting points on your roster, and then that could really hurt your draft pick come off season.
So you're definitely talking about leagues that base their draft picks on max points,
or even points for winning, losing. Like stop winning. Like if you're on the outside looking in, like get points off your team, drop them, trade them. However you want to do it. Like just get points off your team. Like that's who I'm selling. If I'm on the outside looking in, I'm selling everything and anything to keep my points off my team.
And trust me, he practiced what he preaches. He got rid of Jalen Hurts this past year for good value as well. We talked about he got rid of Kyren Williams right before he blew up last year. So he definitely practiced what he preaches on that. But his team got even better because of that trade.
Yeah. Being at the 106 or 107, 108 in a rookie draft is like getting put into the friend zone. It's not a place you want to be.
Yeah, 90% or probably 80% of the time, those middle round, first round picks are not going to be as valuable as they were this past year.
Well, there's so many trends out there that the 101 through 104, something like that, where it's like, those are the difference makers. Those are the hammers versus the 105, 106, 107. Those are bench guys. Those guys don't develop a lot. Like you look at the value of first round picks, they drop off significantly very fast. So you want to be in the top 4 just to have more power, more position. You can do a lot more with a top 3 pick versus you can a top 6 pick come off season when those picks start increasing in value even more.
Yeah, no, that's a great point, Jim. Jeremy, any tips for selling other than what you
just the selling is just whatever you're comfortable with. Like, I know what players a certain value are, or it's like, what the consensus is. It's like, this person's worth this. But I mean, if you're happy with the return, take it, especially if there's lack of interest. I think it was previously mentioned with the Kareem Hunt. I blocked Kareem Hunt 4 times and nobody took a bite. Somebody took a bite. I got a tight ended for it next year. So, I mean, regardless of what the consensus price is, just go with what you feel is adequate in regards to the return that you're obtaining and overall consensus of the league.
Makes all the sense in the world to me. Jim, anything else you got to say about trading at the deadline or anything like that?
No, I think just in general, all of this, know your team. Know where you're at. Like, are you competing or not? Like, I think it's hard to accept sometimes that you've invested so much in this team and you realize it's not good. So burn it down, rebuild. The phoenix from the ashes. Because all you need is one other first that you acquire to end up in the top 4, and then you are in a very powerful position, and you could rebuild even faster because of that. So take a chance.
I love it. Yeah. So for Jimmy and Jeremy, my name is Mickey. This has been Dynasty for the Mountain Toss. Make sure you catch us on YouTube, Apple, or Podbean, and we will talk to you next week.
All right, see you guys.
Thanks, guys.